So hello everyone, my name is Povilas. I'm a QA engineer from Zenitech. I've been a QA for around 3 years now, doing mainly technical work with automation, CI/CD pipelines, and so on. And today I will be talking to you about how to automate your API automation tests with OpenAPI Generator. So before we start, do you guys have any experience with API testing in general? Just manual, please, or show of hands. Okay, there's a lot of you. What about API automation? Okay, cool. So this is what I will be talking about. So usually when you are uh, writing API tests, you need to do a lot of copy pasting from either your developers' Slack messages or from the Swagger documentation, or they have a Postman collection. And it's quite painful. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of switching between windows and so on. So I will talk about that more in this presentation. So just a brief overview. There were some people that didn't raise hands when I mentioned API testing. So I'm just going to go through a brief overview. So instead of testing through the UI, like clicking buttons, opening the website, opening the app, or anything like that, we go straight to the source. We go to the API endpoints that those apps or websites are calling when you click a specific button or you fill out a form or something like that. So you mostly, with API testing, you mostly cover data validation and functionality. So what this means is that you will call the endpoint, you will receive some data, and you will check whether the data that is brought back to you correct. And of course, the functionality. So for example, if you update some sort of data in the database, we need to make sure that the endpoint is actually working and actually doing all of that stuff that we wanted to do. And another good benefit of API testing is it's quick and it's less resource intensive. So for example, it will take you like maybe a few minutes to write some calls to the endpoint, whereas like in UI, you need to, write all of like click things, enter forms, and so on, and it can take quite a bit of time. So especially from automation point of view, where a test might take 2 minutes from the UI, it might take like 5 seconds through just making a few API calls. So what is Swagger? Sorry about the blooper over there, just some parentheses. So if you have done API testing before, you might notice this Postman collection. So you should be familiar with what Postman is. So basically, it's a tool that allows you to save collections of endpoints, their data, their URLs, and so on. And what I'm talking about today is going to be Swagger, which is a UI representation tool of the OpenAPI specification. I will go into that a little bit deeper later. So as you can see on the right here, this is called a Swagger UI. So what this does is that it takes your backend code that your backend developer has written, and it displays all of the endpoints that are in your system under test. It shows you all of the endpoints. So here we have 4 endpoints. We have a service called Automated Controller, and we have 4 endpoints. Sorry for the guys in the back. It might be a little bit small, but I will show a little bit zoomed in picture later. So we have a get endpoint, put endpoint, delete endpoint, and post endpoint. This is just something I whipped up for this presentation. So this is going to be our system under test. So these 4 endpoints. So again, I'm going to repeat myself. What are we trying to solve with this? So we are going to use a tool called the OpenAPI Generator, which will take the Swagger or OpenAPI specification, and it will create a package no matter what programming language you're using, and it will automatically generate a set of code for those 4 endpoints, or for any endpoints that you have under the system under test. So what this will solve, no more copy pasting. You will just need to install the package, regularly update it, and this can be done very well with the help of some DevOps guys and some backend guys to automate this entire process. Okay, so sounds good, but what's the benefit, Povilas? Maybe it's just not worth it. Well, I agree to disagree. So there are quite a few benefits, but the main ones I've written here. So there's a lot of quick feedback from generated code. So whenever backend developers are calling or creating new code or changing endpoints or anything like that, once you update the automatically generated code, it will actually show you in that package that something has changed. And then you can either go to your developer and say, hey, our automated tests are not working anymore. What happened to the package, or what happened to this endpoint? And then you can go check for bugs or check for something like that. And just checking the time. And then if it is a bug, then you can fix it, or the developers can fix it. Or if it's expected, then you can actually just update your tests. As I mentioned earlier, it's very easy to automate generation in CI/CD pipeline. So you can basically ask your backend developers to generate the code for you and then upload it to, for example, GitHub, GitLab, Azure DevOps, whatever code repository system you're using. Another great benefit is that this code can be used anywhere, from API to end-to-end automated tests. So for example, even if you are only automating end-to-end, for example, web tests, you can use this code to do pre-test operations. So setup or something like that, like creating an account or signing in or anything. So that's also a very good thing, even if you're not writing API tests. So before we jump in, I'm going to quickly run down the steps on what we will be doing. There will be a live coding demo, so I'm just going to go through all the steps. So the first step is going to be to get access to an OpenAPI documentation from developers. The second step is download the JSON representation of your system endpoints. So I will show you how to do that if your backend developers have created a Swagger documentation. Use the OpenAPI Generator tool to generate a package, implement the package in your automated test framework, and then enjoy using your automatically generated code for your API call needs, whether it's API tests or end-to-end tests. So you can see a QR code here. Sorry for the guys in the back. I did some testing earlier. Without zoom in, it's basically impossible. But for everyone who wants, there is a repository on GitHub that you can check. I will try to move out so you can actually scan it. So yeah, let's move on to the live demo now. So I will have an assistant here hold my microphone while I do this. Okay, so live demo. So as I said, I was going to show you what this looks like. So as you see, we can see we have the Automate It controller as the system under test. And if we click on these endpoints, we can actually see that it's not just, the URL that it's showing us. It's showing us what it's expecting. It's showing us the ID. It's showing what we should receive. So the only response we should receive is a 200 OK. With an example value. So in this case, it's just going to be a string. We have a put endpoint here that is also, it needs a request body, for example, here. You can see the schema and what it should contain in the body, and then the response again. So this is how a Swagger UI looks like and how you can get a lot of information for it. And if you worked with API tests before, maybe you've, copy-pasted from here. Like, for example, you press try out, type in an ID, then you get a curl request. You can then copy this curl request into, like, for example, Axios or something else to call the endpoint, and then it just takes forever. I need to copy this, go to the code, paste it in, and so on. So it's very, very frustrating. So the tool that we're going to be using is OpenAPI Generator. You can find this, it's open source. And if you go to the generator section, you can see a client generator is what we will be using. And you can see it has a bunch of programming language. So in my example, we're going to be using TypeScript and Playwright. But as you can see, it has Java, JavaScript, Lua, PHP, Python, or anything like that. In this case, we will be using the TypeScript Axios generator because that's the I'm going to be doing it on Playwright on TypeScript, and Axios is actually just a tool that makes requests for us. So all of this stuff will be implemented in the generated package. Again, there are links to Swagger and Playwright that you can check. But other than that, I'm going to jump into the code. So the first step, we will need access to the OpenAPI documentation. So here we go. We had access. This is just a locally run system. So what you can do, let me zoom in. So if you see here, there is a hyperlink called v3 API docs. So if you click it, it will open a JSON file where it shows the whole specification in a JSON format of our Swagger or OpenAPI specification. So if we save that, and it is now saved into our automated test folder. There is Playwright written here. So what I'm going to do is, I already installed OpenAPI Generator. Again, this is all documented in the OpenAPI Generator website, so I'm not going to go over it. But basically what this is going to do is that I'm calling the OpenAPI Generator package. I generate with an input of the API docs.json. The -g is TypeScript Axios. Additional properties, we need the npm name here to actually create the package, and then the output of where we want to output this package. So let's run it. And as you can see here on the top left, it created a folder called Automated API, so what I called it. So I will, if people are not familiar with the terminal, cd basically lets me go into that folder. So I go to there, I install the npm packages for the package that we created, or dependencies, you could say. So, yep. And once that's done, we are going to use a command called npm pack. So what's this going to do is take that entire package and take all of these loose files that you can see in this folder and basically compress it into a tarball. So imagine like a zip file or a RAR file or something like that. It's very similar to that. And I'm just going to move it into the main directory. Obviously, you want to be more clean and maybe move it to different folders. Like, for example, this package. So for example, this package, you could move it to like a library folder or anything like that. So once that's done, you go into your package JSON and you basically add the package. So you go automate it API. And then we will use a file import here. So file :automate it API -1.0.tgz, which is a tarball extension. And then we will install it by running, whoops, give me a second. There we go. So now I will install the automated API package. And now once we've done that, we can go into our example file. So as we all know, automated slogan is grow automation mindset. So now that we have it installed, we can actually import it. So let's import an API from automated API. And now we will create a factory function and call it basically. So what it will do, it will create an instance that will contain all of the functions which will call those endpoints that you saw earlier. So let's instantiate it. Const automate it API equals API dot. And as you can see, if you're using TypeScript, you will have autocomplete here. So it's very, very useful to do that. And the OpenAPI factory will actually require two parameters. So one is the configuration and the base path. So localhost 8080, there's a lot happening. Also, I think I'm running out of battery. So if someone could grab me a charger, that would be great. So we have instantiated our fix in production, exactly. No, nah, I can actually grab one maybe.
While Povilas is doing that, don't ask Rimvidas to hold your beer afterwards.
Won't be able to do this.
Or maybe you have the evidence that I can do that, right?
We're fixed. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now we've instantiated our automated API. So what now we can do is we can go to our test and actually start writing some calls. We will want to get a response. I ran so fast to my backpack that I'm out of breath now, so apologies. We will want to actually get the response of the request that we're doing. So we will do automate it API dot. So as you can see, after the dot, there are 4 methods. So get, automate, IT phrase, delete, create, and update. So what I showed you earlier. And then, as you can see, it's expecting a string as per the documentation. So let's put in a string and let's console log it. Response.data. There we go. And now let's save it and let's run this test. So something went wrong. Interesting. So actually what we need to do, what we need to do, everything is going wrong. I will update the definition to not calling the package itself, but calling it through the calling it, just importing it directly. So now let's run it. And as we can see, it returns us some fun facts about automated. So ISTQB, the board consists of a diverse group of founding members. So that is about ISTQB, which is partnering with this event. So let's change it to something else. For example, 2. Sorry, bad habits. And as we can see, LTSTQB has a strategic partnership with Automated. And so just some fun facts. And I see I still have 6 minutes. So I will go through a bit more advanced stuff. So you might be thinking like, oh, cool, these endpoints are working. But what if they're not working, for example? So what if I don't pass anything here or an empty string? What will happen then? So let's save it and let's try running it. So we are getting an Axios error with request failed with status code 404, which makes sense. We are not actually posting with an ID, so we are getting an error. However, how do you handle that? It seems like it's not really telling us much. It's just telling us that it got a 404. So I do, and you will find this in the GitHub repository also, there is a wrapper, which basically what it does is that it prints the request and the response. So what this helps with is actually troubleshooting when the tests are failing because of the API calls. And the way you use it is you just basically, instead of passing in, just calling the function directly, you would wrap it in the send request function. So let me go to the right and then delete this and then close it. And then let's import this from wrapper. And then let's put in the string. So now you see it will throw us an error because the wrapper function can return either an Axios error or an Axios response. So now we also need to check whether we are getting an Axios error or Axios response. So give me a second. There are a couple of functions written in asserts. So this is just some TypeScript checking, TypeScript asserting whether the response that you received is an error or an actual response. So we need to check if it's a positive test. You would use is Axios response, pass in the response, and then you see the error is gone, and then we can run our test again. And as you can see here, because we wrapped it in the send request function, we can see that there is a pull request. This is very helpful when trying to troubleshoot things with our backend developers, because they will always say, give me the curl, give me the curl, give me the curl. I don't know what the hell is going on because I don't have the curl. So you just copy and paste it, send it over, and that's pretty much it. So that's the brief overview. There is also a curl helper that I didn't go through, but basically just prints out this when you're calling the endpoint. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to show you guys. And yeah, let's move on to the question and answer part. Yes, Ruta? No.
Do you always need to download the JSON file and import it as you did?
Good question. So no, actually, especially if you ask your developers for help, because the developers can upload the JSON file for you and just generate the code for you. So you don't actually want to. You just keep downloading it, and usually you need to do that for Postman, which is also quite a pain point for most API testers. So yeah, I hope I answered your question. Cool. Yep. this.
Hi, Povilas. I'm Anna, and I have a question. Is it possible to set up a sequence of endpoints to verify some kind of E2E?
Yes. You can basically do the same thing. For example, like I only called one endpoint, but you could validate, for example, you want to sign in, right? So you send an endpoint where you sign in, you then receive, for example, some headers or some token from that response, and then you can call another endpoint with that response. So for example, credentials or something like that. So you can do full-on like end-to-end flows for API tests or API endpoints. Okay, cool. Anyone else? Yes?
Could I use it to create mock data?
So that's a good question. So yes, you could actually save the responses that you get from those calls and basically use them as mock data, for example, in end-to-end tests or something like that. So you could use it, yeah.
More questions? So if no more questions,
If no more questions, let me just go back real quick. There is another QR code that I forgot to mention. This is my LinkedIn. So if you want to discuss something regarding automation, please let me know. I'm very happy. I'm very passionate about automation, and I would be very happy to talk to you about stuff. So please invite me. I will probably accept it. And so cool. That's what I wanted to mention. One last thing.
so thank you, Pauli.
Thank you, everyone.